In the sprawling city of Newcrest, where glass skyscrapers kissed the clouds and the streets bustled with endless energy, the Beaumont family lived in a mansion that could rival the grandest palaces, with wealth that could buy entire cities. The Beaumonts were considered one of the most influential families in the country. Their patriarch, Jonathan Beaumont, was a self-made billionaire who had turned a small tech startup into a global empire. His wife, Vivian, was a former model-turned-philanthropist, known for her elegance and charm. Together, they had one child, Nathaniel Beaumont, a boy of 16 with unruly brown hair, piercing blue eyes, and a stubborn streak that matched. His father's ambition, despite his privileged life, Nathaniel had one glaring weakness: math. Numbers, equations, and formulas seemed to mock him, and no matter how many tutors he had, he consistently failed every test. At school, his peers whispered about the billionaire's son, who couldn't even solve basic algebra. Teachers were puzzled, parents were embarrassed, and Nathaniel himself grew frustrated, hiding his shame behind sarcasm and defiance. "Maybe math just isn't for you," his father had said one evening, reviewing another dismal report card. "But son, you need to pass. One more failure and I'll have to reconsider your schooling." Nathaniel had rolled his eyes, muttering something about hating numbers. But deep down, the threat scared him. He didn't want to disappoint his father, even if he secretly hated the pressure that came with being a Beaumont. It was on a rainy Tuesday morning that everything began to change. The Beaumonts had recently hired a new house staff member, a young woman named Amara. Unlike the other maids who had passed through the mansion, Amara carried herself with quiet confidence. She had smooth, dark skin that seemed to glow even in dim light, and eyes that were deep and attentive. She was referred to as the new black maid by some of the household staff, though no one truly understood her past. What they did know was that she was intelligent, meticulous, and had a warmth that made the grand, cold mansion feel a little more like home. Amara had been assigned to general household duties, but she quickly noticed Nathaniel's struggles. She had seen him slam books shut in frustration, throw pencils across the room, and retreat to his room with a stormy expression. One evening, as she was dusting the shelves in his study, she caught a glimpse of the latest math test he had failed. "Looks like someone's having a rough time," she said softly, not wanting to startle him. Nathaniel looked up, surprised. To see her speaking to him? "I'm fine," he muttered, though his slouched posture betrayed the lie. "I don't think so," Amara replied gently, stepping closer. "Maybe you just need someone to explain things differently. Math isn't about memorizing, it's about understanding." Nathaniel blinked. No one had ever spoken to him that way. Tutors had scolded, pressured, or lectured him endlessly, but Amara spoke with patience. It's almost like she could see the frustration behind his failures. I don't know," he said hesitantly. "I've tried everything. Let's try something new," she suggested. "Come sit with me. Let's start from the beginning." And so, their first unofficial lesson began. Amara didn't overwhelm Nathaniel with formulas or complicated theorems. Instead, she used stories, analogies, and simple explanations. When she explained fractions, she used slices of pizza. When she introduced algebra, she compared it to balancing. Scales. Slowly, Nathaniel began to see patterns he hadn't noticed before. He asked questions, stumbled over mistakes, and sometimes groaned in frustration, but each time, Mara corrected him with a calm smile, never showing impatience. It wasn't easy at first. Nathaniel had been conditioned to believe he was bad at math, and unlearning, that took time. He often doubted himself, snapping at Amara when he made careless mistakes. But she never retaliated. She simply said, "Mistakes are proof you're trying. Let's see what went wrong and fix it." The days turned into weeks. Nathaniel's grades slowly improved, not dramatically at first, but steadily. Something else began to change. For the first time, he felt pride in his work, a sense of accomplishment that had eluded him for years. His confidence grew, and with it, his curiosity. He started asking more questions, not just about math, but about the way Amara approached problems, the way she saw solutions where others saw obstacles. Jonathan Beaumont noticed the change. One evening, he entered Nathaniel's study to find him explaining a math problem to Amara, his blue eyes sparkling with excitement. "What's going on here?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Nathaniel froze, then blurted out, I understand it now. She's helping me, Dad. Think I might finally pass my next test." Jonathan looked skeptical but pleased. "Who is she?" he asked, turning to Amara. "I'm just helping him see math in a different way," Amara said with a modest smile. Jonathan studied her for a moment, impressed by her composure and intelligence. "Well, keep it up, Nathaniel. I want to see improvement on your next report card." "I will, Dad," Nathaniel said, determined. The breakthrough came one sunny afternoon when Nathaniel solved a particularly tricky calculus problem on his own. He had been staring at it for hours, his frustration mounting, when suddenly the solution clicked in his mind. He jumped up and shouted, startling Amara, who had been quietly tidying the study. "You did it," she exclaimed, clapping her hands. "I actually did it," Nathaniel shouted, his voice echoing in the large room. "I got it right." Amara smiled, her eyes twinkling. "See, I told you. You just needed the right approach and a little patience." Word of Nathaniel's improvement spread through the household. The other staff members watched in astonishment as the one struggling boy tackled every math problem with growing confidence. Tutors who had given up were baffled. Professors called to congratulate him. Most importantly, Nathaniel began to believe in himself. Despite the growing bond between Nathaniel and Amara, no one in the family fully understood why she had such a unique gift for teaching. Unlike the tutors who came and went, Amara's methods were unconventional but incredibly effective. She didn't rely on textbooks or rigid schedules. She relied on intuition, empathy, and a deep understanding of how young minds worked. One evening, after Nathaniel had aced yet another difficult test, he asked her the question that had been on his mind for weeks. "Amara, how do you know all this?" Amara paused, her hands resting on the edge of the study desk. She looked at him thoughtfully before answering. "I've had to learn the hard way," she said quietly. "The math wasn't always easy for me either. But I discovered ways to make it click, and I realized that anyone can do it if they find their own path." Nathaniel considered her words, feeling a newfound respect for the woman who had changed his life. "Thank you," he said simply. "I don't think I'd ever pass without you." "You would have, eventually," Amara replied, smiling. "Just helped you see it sooner." Months passed, and Nathaniel's transformation became evident to everyone. His report cards were filled with top grades. His teachers praised his dedication, and he even began helping other students who struggled with math. It wasn't just passing anymore, he was excelling. And with each success, the gap between him and the pressure of his family's expectations seemed to shrink. Jonathan Beaumont, who had always been a man of ambition and discipline, watched his son with pride. He still expected excellence, but now he saw a spark in Nathaniel that hadn't been there before, spark of genuine passion and understanding. And though he never said it outright, he knew that Amara had played a role in shaping that spark. As for Nathaniel, he learned more than just math. He learned perseverance, patience, and the value of guidance from someone who genuinely cared. He learned that intelligence wasn't just about talent, it was about effort, curiosity, and the willingness to keep trying even when things seemed impossible. And Amara, she continued her work in the Beaumont mansion, quietly guiding Nathaniel and helping the household run smoothly. She never sought recognition or reward. Her joy came from seeing the boy grow. From witnessing a child who had once felt defeated finally embrace his potential. By the end of the school year, Nathaniel was no longer known as the billionaire son who failed every math test. He was known as the boy who had overcome his struggles, who had grown under the guidance of a remarkable young woman who saw what he could be when no one else did. It was a quiet triumph. But in the grand halls of the Beaumont mansion, it was a victory, felt by everyone. And Nathaniel, once lost in numbers, had finally discovered that with patience, guidance, and belief in oneself, even the most impossible challenges could be overcome. Years later, when Nathaniel walked across the stage to accept a scholarship at one of the country's top universities, he glanced toward the crowd. There, sitting quietly in the back, was Amara, her eyes gleaming with pride. He had succeeded in math, in life, and most importantly, he had learned the power of encouragement, compassion, and the quiet strength of someone who believed in him. When he couldn't believe in himself, the billionaire's son, who once failed every math test, had finally found his way not through money, privilege, or pressure but through understanding, guidance, and the unexpected friendship of the new black maid who changed his life forever.